Alright, this video topic is going to be about the Godzilla Monsterverse and movie recommendations and other media or material to catch up with the Monsterverse for those who feel they want to understand where the fans who are caught up with the Monsterverse in regards to all of the 60 plus years of material that Toho has done. Toho being the company that's originally created Godzilla and the other monsters in the movies. And even other monsters like King Kong and their victims. So this list is kind of covers things in priority. Top priority is listed as the movies you kind of really need to watch, and some reading material that's top priority as well. And you can watch them any order you please. It's just important to understand the difference in the inspiration of the material and the media, so you can further understand the references the legendary Monsterverse gives. And I'm going to attach a document I made with notes to get my explanation of that as well. And I have extra recommendations in there as well, just to further essentially media with official sources listed, and an extra source for essentially narrowing down all the media to help you, so as to help you find the potential movie you maybe wanted to watch, or maybe other sources of media you may be looking for related to the Monsterverse. So basically, the first film of the Monsterverse, Godzilla 2014. And it's called that normally because it's the Godzilla film that came out in 2014. And it features Godzilla and some new monsters. To understand what fully is going on in the movie, they introduced it kind of is a sequel, and the prequel to that film would be a movie recommendation I put here, and a comic. Godzilla 1954, that version specifically, not the English, because they actually don't cut any content, they go over more specifically the origin and inspiration. And then the comic is from Legendary, explaining more of the origin of Godzilla and specifically other monsters and other monsters that can appear possibly in future films. So I'm not going to go over specifics with that one because I don't want to give any spoilers. I've listed official sources so you can possibly find the attachments, the reading material, and the movies, whether it be through Toho or Legendary itself, or themselves, I guess I should say. But the comic itself is called Godzilla Aftershock. It was released in 2019. And if you want to watch American dubbed versions as well, that's fine. I enjoy watching both. And then the next list of material I have listed here is in regards to King Kong, because in the next bit of the timeline, and the next movie released is Kong Skull Island, in which case their inspiration comes more from a few movies here. So I'm just gonna list them and go over why without spoilers as much as possible. Even though these movies are incredibly old, and it's highly possible you've more than likely heard of these things or seen them. So first is Son of Kong, 1933. Incredibly old movie, but it's a classic. King Kong Lives, 1986. Also old, classic. And then of course King Kong vs. Godzilla. Yes, the movie has references between all three. And somewhat of a reference to the original King Kong as well, which is 1933. Although I don't put it on my list because it's not the real inspiration behind Kong Skull Island. And you have your choice of choosing between, if you go back and watch King Kong's 2, there's the 33 one, there's the, I believe it's, in regards to the 80s one, it's 85 or 6 as well, or something like that. That one's still pretty neat. And then of course there's the 2005. I personally recommend the extended uncut one because there's more content and character build in that one. That's my recommendation if you want to see more of King Kong, not just the ones I recommend here, of the actual inspiration between Kong Skull Island and why they chose to do it that way instead of him climbing on a building. If you know, I'm sure you've all heard that one. And there's that essentially. And now the next section we go into is where things get incredibly complicated. Is basically what I've chosen to do is go for the main Toho known monsters, and Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is a title from the English dub, Godzilla King of the Monsters from 1956, but they use that title out of respect for Toho and the Americanized version for Godzilla's movie 2019 Godzilla King of the Monster, which multiple monsters appear. And for these films, I have many recommendations, but the origin of those movies, I actually recommend Rodan, which originally was 1956, and there's a later version for English dub. Personally, either one is fine. I've seen both. There's obviously going to be extra content in the original dub, which would be Japanese with English subtitles, but the main point is the ending, because that directly goes into a prequel of what happens to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is really cool that they did that. I actually really like that. And then of course Mothra from 1961. I think either English or Japanese dub is fine. Personally, Mothra's a really cool, powerful character as well. Throughout the MonsterVerse, basically Mothra and Rodan both do crazy powerful things. It's actually really kind of neat and fun. And they all, a lot of Toho movies do some funny things as well. There's different eras of the movies, you have different themes. And if you, just for recommendation here, want to see more Mothra content to kind of explain where Mothra has some crazy abilities and things, where they kind of reference that, even in the movie, even further. I put as a recommendation, not in like top priority, but as normal when you feel you have time, because it's a lot to cover in these recommendations, because they do cover a lot in the Monsterverse. I referenced the Mothra Rebirth trilogy because they go over almost all of her abilities. So the trilogy is called Mothra Rebirth 2, and Mothra Rebirth 3. I think English, if you want to do dubbed or subbed is fine. I did the subbed, and those are good. They go over a lot of her abilities. She's extremely powerful, and one of the few monsters that can. There's a reason she's called Queen of the Monsters. I don't want to go into spoilers. The next movie, it's a top priority here to cover because it goes very well. It's very important, much in hand with the King of the Monsters series or movie as well. Is King Ghidorah, which is technically it's a spoiler, but it's also in the trailer, so it's at the same time it's not. In this movie, for its original origin, is Ghidorah the three-headed monster, and that's where they got the original inspiration for it. Was this movie specifically, and I believe it has an alternate name for the dub version, but you can watch it either way, and it's great. And I listed extra material here if you want to see what it leads into. And that is Invasion Astro Monster, which is also known as Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. That's the 1965 movie, and that's the basically the one involving aliens. This is where you get into like the 60s when it involved like space travel. Then, of course, the next ones I'm going to talk about here involving Godzilla King of the Monsters. They're not top priority, but they do explain Godzilla's abilities, the new ones he's acquired. You see in the movie. I'm not going to cover the movies themselves, but I am going to mention them. We have Godzilla vs. Biollante. It's one of my favorites. Godzilla vs. Destroyah. Those two basically overall cover Godzilla's new abilities. And if you don't want necessarily spoilers with Godzilla vs. Destroyah, I would recommend Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, which that one does kind of prelude to what happens in Godzilla vs. Destroyah at the end of the movie. But the most specific examples I can point to what happens is Godzilla vs. Barlante and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Or specifically, if you have played the Godzilla PS4 game, they have a lot of different things. But I'm covering right now the movies, and I'll get the games a little bit later. And as far as upcoming, well, you're probably going to see King Kong vs. Godzilla based on the trailer and what they've shown. I'm going to go ahead and point to, based on footage and images, talking about Mechagodzilla and the toys they've shown. And Mechagodzilla has three origins. His original origin is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which is a 70s movie, actually. Now, to be fair, I didn't pull the exact date on that one because that's not the movie I'm using as the one to look at. The one they seem to be using for inspiration is the other two origins, which is I'm using specifically for you to look at. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla 2002, and as the other option to check out, because they have in the trailers a kind of mad scientist looking for revenge, and it looks almost more down that route, which is Terror of Mechagodzilla. And that's, I believe, the dub name, but it has another name as well. And that one essentially, in Terror of Mechagodzilla, involves a mad scientist who is given the opportunity to utilize and use Mechagodzilla against all of humanity. That's basically also, I believe, on the, I don't remember the word synopsis, or basically it's on the back of the cover. But there's other things going on. This is also during a time of like, you know, the space travel and space exploration, and also a time when Godzilla is actually considered a good guy. So, them doing this kind of thing actually for the movie does make sense. I think to kind of look at these two different origins, the Terror of Mechagodzilla and the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, because just how they've done things with the movies so far in the MonsterVerse. And there's also the possibility, which is what I want to mention one more movie, even though it's not on the list. It's not as a top priority, but as a normal to look at. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which is a 1991 film. I believe the dub version is. It could also be 1990 if you're looking at the Japanese original. That is, they have a different use of King Ghidorah in that one. And that one's to check out as well. And that's a sequel to, I believe, Godzilla vs. Biollante. I believe the only other thing that I would have left to talk about would be the video games. If they're taking from anything from that at all, which I don't believe they are. I believe they're taking strictly from Toho as far as the movies, and anything Kong related that could lead up to King Kong versus Godzilla, anything possibly after they want to do. And as far as the reference to what we saw for Atlantis and King Kong vs. Godzilla, that brings back to point one other movie I did want to talk about and mention before I get into the games. I almost forgot it, I'm sorry. That is Godzilla vs. Megalon. In the dub version, they call it, I think, like the Water Kingdom or Water Park or something. I forget exactly what they call it. They call it something else to, I don't know if it's censoring or what, but in the Japanese original version, they call it Atlantis. That's the only thing I'm gonna mention as far as that movie, but it's a very interesting movie. That movie, Godzilla's a good guy and introduces other characters. But that's a movie to watch as well if you wish. I don't believe any other references from any of the MonsterVerse movies they've mentioned. The only thing I can think of would be King Kong is it the ship where they reference that, but that's something they even explain in a comic they did with the movie. So basically though, that comic you can find and read through Legendary themselves, or you can actually, I believe if you've pre-ordered and purchased the movie, in the extra section where they have extras, they have comics and snippets and stuff that explain some things in there too, which is also kind of cool. But basically that can also be explained by just watching some of the original King Kong movies, of whatever version you want, if you really want to. It's not the most significant important thing to know the origin of the ship. Because it could be explained in literally like 30 seconds, less than a minute. It's not the most important thing to know why that ship being there matters. And I believe it may be more of a reference to Sun Kong anyways, because the ship being there that happens in that movie too. But in regards to the game, getting back to that section, if you look at like Godzilla versus PS, or I was going to reference some older games, but Godzilla PS4, which is also the one they remastered for PlayStation 5 currently. There's creatures in there that they have the Godzilla from the 90s, they have the Godzilla from the 60s, including, as a playable character, they have the 2014 Godzilla. And they go in the menu into what they call their Kaiju Profile. They explain some of their origins and stuff. I noticed with their explanation of some of the kind of made me laugh, almost origins and stuff, they kind of have some of it a little incorrect, and it's kind of funny. I think it's because they're kind of just like spitting along with it or something. They miss some things and mistype some things, and it's fine, but yeah, I don't know, but that's what it is. But basically it doesn't matter too much because it's the video games versus like but basically those video games can be kind of fun, or if you have the chance to go back and play Destroyah Monsters mainly, from, I think they had it on GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, or Godzilla Unleashed was fun. They had it on Wii and PS2, I believe. I think the one for Wii was better because not only did it have more characters, I think it maybe had an extra game mode. I'm probably wrong about that, but the main point was the characters. They even had a contest for fans to make characters, and 2 of them won and got into the game. I think one of them was Crystalak, and the other one was, can't remember the name, it was like a molten rock kind of magma creature. And it was more melee based, but it could shoot lava. Crystalak was, well, it's in its name, it was the crystalline kind of creature that was almost like feeling like it was all crystals and could stand kind of like a gorilla in the fight. It was weird, but it was also incredibly powerful. And they actually put some fan creations into the game. I thought that was cool. You don't really see that too much with games anymore now. So I just thought that's something to look back on in some games. Yeah, that's it for my video. I know it's a long one. And, I'm thankful for everyone who's stuck around. And leave a like if you liked it. Otherwise, I understand. And subscribe for more, possibly. Thank you. Bye.